about what you need to do to become a beginner hiker, and mostly focusing on local hikes. But a big question that a lot of you probably have is hiking or walking, what's the difference? And we can't really answer that question. A lot of people have different definitions. I started Googling it out of curiosity. I tend to refer to hiking is when I have to have boots on and I'm going off of sidewalk. Some, like if I'm walking on rocks or trails where there's roots. Some people refer to hiking if it's so many miles. Some people refer to it if you're climbing mountains. But in our case tonight, we're going to refer to it as you could be walking anywhere in nature outside of being on a sidewalk. And then I want, oops, here we go. I want to start off for everybody to just think about, we're the Appalachian Mountain Club, but we don't just hike the Appalachian Mountains. There's several divisions or several chapters of the Appalachian Mountain Club running all the way through the Carolinas. And a huge part of what we do is local hikes. We offer many different types of hikes, and we don't do just hiking. We do biking, we do kayaking, skiing in the winter, many different activities. So again, tonight's talk will be just about hiking, but just wanted you to know that there's many other resources. And hopefully when you saw the title, it wasn't a little overwhelming. We're not going to teach you how to hike the Appalachian Mountain Trail by yourselves. We're really going to talk tonight about local hiking. And it brings up this question. I want people, you don't have to, obviously you can't answer me, but I want you to think, why would you hike? I think if you look at this picture and you think about hiking, everybody listening has a different perception of what hiking is. Some people might look at this picture and say, that's not hiking, they're not going up a hill. Or somebody's going to be thinking, what fun is it to stand in a line like that and follow a leader? Well, some people would like that. So I do think there's many different concepts of hiking. And before we get into the nitty gritty about what you need to hike and the safety precautions, I just want to have you think about the types of hikes that are out there. This is the list Bill and I came up with, but you may have some other ideas as well. And maybe at the end, you might want to share them, but I'm going to go over a few different types of hikes there are and why you would hike. First of all, the obvious, exercise and fresh air. I mean, I think most people think of that when they think of hiking or being outdoors. With this COVID situation that we've been in, change of scenery has become a big incentive. Think about it. A lot of people are working out of their homes now, and they just got to get out of the house. And one of the best things to do is to get out into nature. So that's a common thing that people would need to do. But there's other reasons to hike. Relaxation. It's very therapeutic to be out in nature. And they've actually given it a term, mindful hiking. When you're out, here this gentleman's by himself. He has a chance to clear his head and focus on things that he wants to focus on. So there really is a lot of people that go out into nature just to relax and think. But in addition to that, I don't know if anybody has heard of forest bathing. This is a concept that's come out of, I believe, Japan. And there's a lot of studies. I'm not educated to a degree to be able to share the benefits, but there are a lot of articles on the internet that talk about health benefits. Just being in nature, people become healthier. And I don't know exactly, I really can't, I don't have a medical background to explain that, but I would definitely encourage you to look into that. I think if you just look at forest bathing, and I know from experience being in nature, I feel different after being out for a while. Another reason is you might want to go on a date. I mean, people, think about picnic, especially in this day and age of COVID, you're meeting someone new, the safest place is to be outside in nature. But again, even like I remember when my niece was little, her favorite thing was to go hiking and have a picnic. It is a fun thing to do. Some people are very goal oriented and they want to accomplish something. And obviously climbing a mountain is a nice accomplishment. You see them. Why'd you climb the mountain? Because it was there. You see the mountain and, after, depending on how big the mountain is or whatever, it's a nice accomplishment to say you've climbed it. there's a lot of members of the Appalachian Mountain Club that make a goal to climb all the 4,000 foot mountains in New Hampshire, and they, keep a list. So, I tend to like accomplishments, so that's kind of fun. Another way to do accomplishment, and I don't know if you've heard of this, is we do it, and also the Friends of Blue Hills is now doing it, is we call it trail trace an area. The Blue Hills, I think, calls it hike 125. The Blue Hills themselves have 125 miles, and this Southeast Mass chapter of the Appalachian Club, we've been doing for 16, I think it's our 16th year now, where we meet on Thursdays and we hike different trails in the Blue Hills, and you get the map and then you color each trail that you've done. And when you've colored in the whole map, you get a patch. So it's an incentive to not only get out and hike, but then you have to learn how to read a map, and you have to track, learn different areas of the Blue Hills. And I'm telling you, there are 125 miles in the Blue Hills alone, but you're going to walk a lot more than 125 miles to get on every single one of these trails. So it is a neat accomplishment, and it does get people out. It doesn't have to just be the Blue Hills. It could be, there was, during COVID, we had a couple members of our chapter that decided that they were going to hike every street in their town, and just for a sense of accomplishment. So there's many ways to do that. Another type of hiking is anybody that's got a dog that needs to get out. It's, dogs like walking on the street, but man, they really like being out in nature, and it's a nice excuse to get out there. Some places are more dog friendly than others, and it's a nice way to meet other dog owners. Another group of people I've been noticing, when I go out on Sunday mornings, some places I see a lot of people with binoculars, and I never thought about that. I like to use my camera, but there are a lot of people that hike to bird watch. And no, I did not take this picture if anybody's asking, but I thought it was a neat picture of an eagle. And then another reason to hike, and you might not have thought of this, is to socialize. Look at this big group of people. I know most of these people because I've hiked with them, and it really is a fun thing to get out with like-minded people and just chit chat and get some exercise. So that is definitely an incentive for some. Just to observe nature, whether it's you want to take pictures or whether you just want to enjoy the different seasons. It's a different scene. You start going into the woods a little ways, and there's definitely a different scenery than what you're going to see outside. Hike to take pictures is one of my favorites. And if you want to focus on the picture of Bill there, how do we do that? This is not a Photoshop picture. We were having fun in the Blue Hills one night, and does anybody, I mean, you can't answer me today, but does anybody realize what's going on, how he's standing on a tree and all these other trees are sideways behind him? Obviously, we came across a tree that was down, but it was really fun to get an interesting image from that. And then the picture on the left, we did find two trees kissing, but this is not our picture. This one's a little cuter than what we took. But there's a lot of cool things out in nature. Full moon hikes. In the wintertime, when it gets dark earlier, we offer full moon hikes. This particular one is at Borderland State Park. It is really fun to get out there. You wouldn't believe how bright it is to hike. I mean, we typically bring headlamps, but oftentimes you don't even need them. The moon is so bright. And even just to celebrate the seasons, hiking every week at the Blue Hills now, I'm starting to notice the little changes in every season, like the daylight hours a little bit longer, the trees budding out little by little, the early plants that bloom. It is kind of fun to start acknowledging and recognizing the seasons. So what we all say is it's impossible to go for a walk in the woods and be in a bad mood. And if you haven't tried it, try it. It is unbelievable how peaceful and therapeutic it can be to be out in nature. So hopefully I've given you a few ideas as to why you might want to hike. And I'm sure people have other ideas that we haven't thought of ourselves. But again, this is to get us into the nitty gritty. Bill's going to go on now and explain. So what do you need to do to hike safely? And I'm going to pass the microphone on to Bill.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Very good. Yeah, one of the most important things that you need to have with you when you're hiking, and I'll be talking about all different types of gear, but the first is the first aid kit. That first aid kit should have these items in it. If you get a bee sting, you may need a little Benadryl or and we always have a little bit of ibuprofen with us. Some of us are getting a little bit older and our joints are starting to ache a little bit. So the ibuprofen does help. Kind of call it hiker's crack, but Band-Aids, you're going to, it's bound to happen. Somebody's going to cut themselves, a little Neosporin to put under it. Moleskin is excellent for treating any blisters. So if you've got a brand new pair of hiking shoes and you're out in the woods hiking for a couple of miles, you're bound to start wearing a little bit of a blister. So the moleskin, if you put that right over it, it'll take care of that. And also tick and bug repellent. There's many, many different kinds of tick and bug repellent out there, all natural. There's stuff with plenty of DEET in it. So, do a little research and use what you feel comfortable with as far as bug repellent. Always spray yourself away from the group so that you're not getting any on other people in the group. But make sure you use the tick and bug repellent, especially this time of year because they're out there. The deer in the woods are dropping ticks left and right. So it is, and all of us have found a tick or so on us. So I didn't find any on me last year because I was using the tick repellent quite extensively, and I use all natural tick repellent. So and it seemed to work. I didn't find one tick last year, so that was great. But as far as a personal first aid kit, which everyone should have with them, we group hike leaders have multiple person first aid kits usually with us, but everyone should have their own first aid kit. And you can purchase them at REI or on Amazon, and they're just packed with everything you need. So take a look at the ingredients in the kit, before you buy it, and just have it with you, because the best thing is you never have to use it, so but always keep it in the top of your pack.
Can I add one little quick story?
Yep.
I have to say the Benadryl, I do not hike without Benadryl, and actually I keep it in my car now. I've never been allergic to bee stings. I've been stung many times in my life, but I was on a hike probably 4 or 5 years ago. A woman was stung and she passed out, and it was very scary. She ended up going to the hospital. We almost gave her the EpiPen, but then she woke up pretty quickly and we didn't. Then last fall, I got stung by God knows what, and I almost passed out in the woods. I got to the point that I got down on the ground fast, and then I had hives all over me, and we didn't have Benadryl on us. There was 3 of us hiking together, 4 of us actually, and we did not have our first aid kit. So never ever again will I hike without a first aid kit, even just those little packets of the Benadryl. I do recommend it because you might not think you're allergic, but there's different kind of animals and different kind of bugs in the woods.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Footwear. Footwear's next. That's well, this is a picture of a lot of gear, and you may or may not need all of this gear. And my recommendations is to make a list of what you pack in your pack, and when you get home, cross off what you didn't use, except your rain gear and your first aid kit, of course, and add what you think you might need, and keep working that list until you've got a list of items that you need for hiking or you enjoy taking with you for hiking, and that'll keep your pack nice and light, and you'll have everything that you need. So it's a good thing to running list to keep working on it. But the next thing is footwear. Footwear is extremely important. You don't want to be out in the woods with sandals, although we do know people who do hike in sandals. It's kind of a challenge, but you want to be comfortable. I like Merrell's. You might like another brand of hiking shoe, but you want something that's good and sturdy, something that's going to support your ankles like these. You can get higher ones if you want. But the footwear should be very sturdy. The bottom should be good and solid, so you don't feel all the rocks through the soles. And you want them, you don't want them brand new. You want them broken in. Get a couple of local small hikes down in them, and then so they're broken in before you go on anything long. But the other thing with that, that helps protect your feet is your socks. And we always start with a sock liner made out of polypropylene. It's a nice thin liner that goes over your foot. And then you put another polypropylene sock over that. Or if it's getting to be wintertime, you put a wool sock over that. Maybe even 2 pairs of wool socks if it is getting really cold. But the polypropylene sock rubs against your outer sock instead of your skin. And that'll keep the abrasions and the blisters and all of that to a minimum when you're hiking. And it'll also I find it adds a lot of comfort. When I've got that polypropylene sock liner on, it is comfortable. And they're not available at most of your shoe stores and stuff. I usually get mine either on REI or on Amazon or something like that and they're nice and thin. So, and they last quite a while. They're pretty rugged. So,
yeah, I just recently started wearing the compression socks as the bottom layer. Like I think they call them soccer socks. They're not real strong compression, but they seem to make my feet last a little longer on a hike.
And they help support your foot, and that's what you need. You need support. Tie those laces up. You don't want loose shoes. Plus, during the year, in the summertime, you want something that's a little more breathable, maybe than a winter boot. And during the fall and the spring, you want something a little rugged, a little bit of insulation, and definitely waterproof. And you'll see later on in the talk why you need waterproof boots. It's just a very important thing. And these boots don't stay waterproof, so plan on cleaning them and maintaining the waterproofness on them with waterproof products. So it's very, very important to take care of those shoes because they're going to take care of you. So the next area that we're going to cover is clothing. As you can see in this crowd, and we're in this crowd somewhere, everybody has a different take on clothing and what keeps them warm. And everybody's got different body temperatures too to maintain. So whatever works for you. But one of the things you see here is there's no cotton. No one is wearing cotton. I don't see anybody wearing cotton in this because cotton will absorb that moisture from your body, and then it will get cold, and you will get cold, and it's just it's just not something you want to wear. Take it from me, no cotton socks, no cotton t-shirts, no cotton whatsoever. And a lot of people here have synthetic fibers, polypropylene. You see a lot of fleece, you see some down, you see some poly liners, you see some nylon, a lot of nylon there. And I think this was kind of a windy day, so you see some shells. But you want to dress in layers. You want to start with, say, a polypropylene shirt. If it's a cool day, maybe another they call it mid-layer and mid-weight polypropylene shirt or some type of Gore-Tex or something. And then what I'm wearing is a polypropylene moisture wicking. It's got ventilation built into it, and it helps me ventilate as I'm hiking. You don't want to build up moisture in these layers. You want it to be able to escape so that you stay as dry as possible and stay warm. And then over that layer, maybe you do a fleece and a shell, nice shell parka that's going to keep rain out. It'll keep warmth in. It'll keep the wind out. But it also, a lot of these shells, when you're looking to buy a shell, they'll have zippers in the armpits. They'll have zippers in the chest area that will help you ventilate too when you get hot. When we hike, you go up an incline, you get to the top of Big Blue maybe, and you're hot. You got to ventilate a little bit. But when you stop, now all that heat starts to dissipate and the cold starts to come in. So you want to be able to close those openings up and bundle up a little bit more. And one of the things we all do too is we'll carry like an extra fleece, just in case we maybe underestimated the weather. Maybe the hike is going a little bit slower and we're not heating up as much. It's always good in your pack to carry an extra layer. If you notice everybody's pants too, they're all hiking pants. A lot of them are cargo type pants. They're all made out of synthetic fibers, which also helps wick moisture. Some people, I think they've tucked their pants into their socks. That's a great way to keep the ticks out from climbing up your legs. So, and then I don't see any gaiters in this picture, but gaiters is something else that will also close up that area at the base of your leg to keep the wind from coming up and hold the heat in. And it also keeps moisture, rain, ticks, mosquitoes away from the base of your feet. So it's all, and nobody in this picture is really trying to make a fashion statement here. They're all just trying to keep warm, keep dry, and keep comfortable. So the fashion statement is secondary when you're hiking, and everybody here knows that. See all the smiles on those faces? They're all happy because they're comfortable and they're having a good time. So clothing is very important. Now in the summertime too, you may just be out in a polypropylene t-shirt, and you may have your zip off pants. They make a lot of these synthetic fiber pants that you can zip the bottoms off if you get overheated, and just put them in your pocket. And it's a convenient way to have a pair of shorts available after you get into the woods. Sometimes we start out on a cool morning and we're all laid up. And by the time we get to midday, 10 o'clock, it's hot, and you want to take some of that clothing off, unzip those legs and cool down. So temperatures and conditions vary. The other thing as far as clothing, and I think it's next, is rain gear. Rain gear, that is extremely important. Whether, and let me tell you, it could be a sunny day and the weatherman says there's no showers, no chance of showers, and we've been out there and it's rained. And it's a good thing we had our rain gear because we needed it. I always carry a spare poncho in my backpack, but if I know it's going to rain, I take my rain gear too with that spare poncho. And this person, if you notice, has a pack cover, which is a raincoat for your backpack too, so the contents of your backpack don't get wet. A lot of people have that too. But rain gear, extremely important. And again, this person's walking through, looks like kind of a river of water coming down that trail. And that's why the waterproof shoes, because but even by the end, even waterproof shoes by the end of your hike, they're going to need some drying out because they tend to get a little bit of wet. But as long as you got a good base on them of waterproof, you're good to go for most of the day. So, and one of the other things, just a couple more things as far as gear in the wintertime. A good warm hat is going to hold that heat in you. Make sure you a nice fleece hat or a balaclava that covers your neck and your head. That's very important in the wintertime. And then even in the summertime, a nice hat with a brim or a wide brim hat, just to keep the sun off your ears, off your face, so you're not getting burned. So it's good planning. There's a lot of planning involved when it comes to hiking gear and clothing. Next thing we want to talk about as far as equipment to bring with you is maps, compasses, and GPS. Not everybody I know can use a compass, but most people can use a map. And like when we hike in the Blue Hills, the trails are all the intersections of the trails are numbered. And you'll be able to tell where you are by just looking at the map and finding that number if you get turned around. So at least you know where you are and know how to get out. If you can use a compass, that is great, especially on hiking trips with no not that without numbered trails, you can at least find the direction you're heading in. You know what direction you left your car. So a compass is a good thing to have. And a good map and compass course, which the AMC offers at least a couple of times a year, and it's well attended, is something worth taking if you do plan on hiking a lot, especially in areas that are acres and acres and acres of woods, so that you don't get lost. But I find, and most of us who hike now, we use our GPS on our phone, and there's quite a few apps. And you can find the one that most suits your abilities and your type of hiking. The app that I use is called GPS Essentials, and it will track my trails. It'll tell me how long I've gone, and it'll also tell me where I am and where I've been. As long as I shut it off before I get in the car and drive all the way home, I'll know exactly how many miles I've hiked and where I've hiked. So that's a great app for the phone. The other one for Apple users too is Maplets, and that's a great. A lot of the maps that you'll encounter in the different places are on Maplets, and if you get turned around, it'll tell you exactly where you are, how far away from the trail, or where you are on the trail, and you'll be able to turn around and get out. So if we get turned around a little bit in the woods, because the Blue Hills has a lot of trails, and a lot of those trails look the same, and even Sue and I have hiked, we've hiked every trail in the Blue Hills at least 6 or 7 times. We still get turned around in there because it's 125 miles of trails. So Maplets is a great way for us to find out exactly where we are, where we missed that trail, or if we haven't come to it yet. So Maplets is an extremely powerful app for going through the woods. Another piece of gear on the next slide is water. Water, you need 2 liters of water if you're going to do like a 5-mile hike. Wintertime, summertime, it doesn't matter. You're expelling as much moisture from your breath in the wintertime when you're hiking as you are in the summer, if not more, because the air is drier and you're expelling even more moisture. So water is extremely important in the winter and the summer. In the summertime, a lot of us use bladders. It's a plastic sack with a hose coming out of it that you can just sip off of as you're traveling, or we'll use a Nalgene bottle or some type of water bottle that contains water, and just leave it in one of the pockets in our backpack. In the wintertime, though, you really need some type of thermos or a cover that'll insulate that Nalgene bottle just to keep it from freezing. The bladders, the little hose that comes out, freezes solid in the winter every time. You really can't use that in the winter. So a nice insulated bottle is good. The other thing, not only for water, is snacks. A good trail mix. I like to go to Trader Joe's and grab a great trail mix in Trader Joe's, something with a little fruit in it, some nuts, it has a little bit of protein in it and a little bit of sugar in it, and just enough to keep you going on the trail. You might just take some protein bars, some Cliff bars, things like that to snack on along the trail. If you're going for a whole day's worth of hiking, you really need to pack a lunch, and the lunch, should have some high protein food in it, stuff that's going to keep you from starving to death out there, because I know I get hungry when I hike. And when we do an all-day hike, I'll usually carry a sandwich. I'll make a little thermos of clam chowder, maybe have a couple of peanut butter crackers with me. And then somebody always brings cookies, they're always sharing cookies. So you don't have to worry about that little bit of sugar at the end. So, because somebody always brings that. But it's important to keep up your energy when you're hiking, because you do use a lot of energy. And what we always think about is, boy, how many calories are we burning today? This is great. But you do have to replenish that energy, because you're just not going to make it out of the woods. You're going to feel really lethargic. You're going to start shaking. You want that. You need that little bit of snack, whether you just ate or not. always have that little snack with you, something that's gonna last the whole day. Chocolate's a little tough in the summertime because you're gonna open up that plastic bag and have a blob of chocolate in the bottom of it. So, but in the wintertime, chocolate's fine. Peanut butter crackers, they do have a lot of energy and a lot of protein. So it's something nice to bring. The next piece of equipment is important. So, if you're out for an hour hike, you might not need a toilet paper roll or anything like that. But, if you're in the woods for a while, you just never know, especially when you get as old as me. You just never know when you're going to need that. And you just carry it with you anyway. You might want to use it after you've eaten, your clam chowder, just to wipe your chin, and then the other thing is a plastic bag to put all your food waste, your napkins, your spoons and things like that, a plastic bag to contain that. So you're not getting it all over the inside of your backpack, and you want to take it back out of the woods with you. You don't want to leave anything in there. The other thing is the plastic poop bags for the dogs too. You want to, if you're walking your dog, you want to make sure you carry the poop bags with you. Maybe a second plastic bag to put them in so that you can tie it onto your backpack and carry them out. I know, if you're out for 4 hours of hiking, you're going to use 2 or 3 poop bags for the dogs too. So that's extremely important to carry a bag. And let's see, next item, and it's not real important, you may not need them, but hiking poles. I find when we go up and down hills, I take the hiking poles. When we're in rough terrain, I'll take the hiking poles. If we're just doing, like, say, Foul Meadow out there in the Blue Hills along the Neponset River there, I won't take my hiking poles. I don't really need them. But hiking poles really add stability. They also give you a little bit of arm strength because you're using your arms to maneuver in the woods. A lot of hiking poles are adjustable. You can see on a lot of these poles, they've got a spot where it actually expands and contracts so that you can get comfortable with the hiking poles. You could use a walking stick. I know a few people who use walking sticks just to lean on, just to get a little agility. When you're walking through or through a stream and trying to get your balance on a few rocks, nothing better than having a couple of hiking poles or a walking stick just to stabilize yourself so that you're not going to slip into that stream. They really help out. People get fancy with them. They carve little faces on them and stuff. So they'll put their names on them. They'll make little compartments in their hiking sticks to carry, maybe a plastic bag or something, but hiking poles, I like them and I use them all the time. So there's some, and you can get them fairly inexpensive at Ocean State Job Lot. You can buy a little bit more expensive ones at REI. You can get them online. They're and just do your research too before you buy them. You don't want something that's going to collapse on you or break easily or something like that. They also have multiple bases. Some of them are for snow. Somebody can change for rock terrain. Somebody can change for squishy conditions. So you might want to buy one with multiple bases on the pole. And then the grips you want to be comfortable. A lot of people like the cork grips rather than the plastic grips because they are more comfortable. But just do your research and even ask the guys at the store, what type of hiking pole do you recommend? This is the type of hiking I plan on doing. And they'll steer you straight too on that. So the next is what to carry all this stuff in, a backpack. You want a nice backpack that fits your torso. Some people have longer torsos than others. So backpacks come in short, medium, and long. And if you've got a long torso, you want a long backpack. You see this guy's backpack, he's got a chest snap on there to hold those shoulder straps together. That's really important. Nothing worse than those shoulder straps starting to slide over your shoulders and you have to adjust it every time. That's extremely important. I don't see it, but you want a backpack too with a waist belt. So if you've got, your lunch with you, you got 2 liters of water, you got your rain gear in there, you got a few other things, your first aid kit, it's going to add some weight to that backpack. If you get a waist belt built into your backpack, a lot of that weight is now going to be distributed to your hips rather than just your shoulders, and it'll be distributed much more evenly over your body. That's the type of backpack you want. My backpack, and you may see it in a few photos, I have an Osprey that I actually have 2 Ospreys that I really like. They are very, very comfortable. The pockets are just in the right spots. But there are so many other backpacks out there that you can use. Very inexpensive backpacks are just fine, just as long as you feel comfortable with them. When you do go to a store, say, an outfitter's store to buy a backpack, ask the guy to put a sandbag in it and let you walk around the store, just so you can feel what it's going to feel on you with that weight in it. You want to be comfortable. This is an investment that you want to be comfortable with. So try it out in the store with some weight in it. Have the guy adjust it for you. He knows how, because all those shoulder straps, the front strap, the waist strap, everything's adjustable. And he'll adjust it so it's sitting on your back so that it's the most comfortable it can be. And it's almost like you haven't got anything on at all when it's adjusted right. So take the time when you do purchase a backpack. And then don't forget, your dog. They make some great backpacks for dogs. They can carry their water in it. They can carry their food in it. They can carry their dog dish in the backpack. They can carry their poop bags. So they can share the load, if they want to go hiking with you, they can, and they're more than happy. Look at this dog. He is more than happy to carry his stuff in his backpack. So yeah, don't forget your dog when it comes to a backpack. So let's see. Well, and now we're into this. So part of our organization as the AMC is to preserve our natural resources for us and for our kids and for our kids' kids. We want to make sure that we don't damage anything, that we preserve it while enjoying it. We don't want to pose too many restrictions on our hiking and our enjoyment of the outdoors, but we want to do it right. We want to be, and not only do we want to do it right, we want to be comfortable at doing it and educated at keeping ourselves safe, keeping the woods safe, keeping the nature safe. And these 7 principles, there's an organization called Leave No Trace. They came up with these 7 principles, and every outdoor organization has adapted these principles in their ethics in the outdoors. So the Appalachian Mountain Club, the Boy Scouts of America, Friends of the Blue Hills, everybody uses Leave No Trace. And you'll see why it's so important as we go through these. So Bigfoot, if Bigfoot can do it, you guys can do it too. Nobody ever sees Bigfoot, or not very often, and he doesn't leave any trace out there except a few footprints, and that's all we should be using. We should only be leaving footprints and taking pictures, and leaving nature alone as best we can. So, but one of the most important things is to plan ahead. And like I mentioned, rain gear. Check the weather report before you go. Check the weather report at the trailhead just before you get out of your car or just before you head out in the woods, because it changes. And we know, we live in New England, it changes extremely fast. So check the weather for hazards and wind and rain and lightning and that sort of thing. You can see this group. This picture was taken on a day there was 0% chance of rain, 0. This is a new members hike we did down at Wampatuck State Park. And I'm in the right there with no rain gear on. Not that I didn't have rain gear. It was just such a warm, nice day. I thoroughly enjoyed the rain as it was raining. So I didn't even have to put my rain gear on. But some chose to put their rain gear on. And you just stop at the side, put your rain gear on, throw it over your backpack, and then continue on. we never let the rain bother us unless it's lightning. If it's lightning, then we get out. But if it's just raining, we're prepared. We've got our rain gear. It sounds great in the woods when it's raining. The smells, the sounds, the how everything starts to shine when it's wet. We don't stop. We welcome rain days when we hike. We never postpone our hikes when just for a rain. So, and you'd be surprised at how enjoyable it really is once you do get out there in the rain. So, but you want to check to make sure that you know the regulations in that area. For instance, what to stay away from, what trails to stay on, what trails not to stay on, what trails might be closed. So check before you go out. Like this is a Blue Hills map, and they've got a lot of regulations down there in the corner, a lot of rules that they want you to follow. Most parks have that, and you might even get in a little bit further than just the map and get on their website to see some of their rules in the parks. You know, they may have parking restrictions. They may have fees for parking, but you want to be prepared. You don't want to get out there and all of a sudden, oh, I can't hike here because, you know, I can't, I forgot to bring my wallet, you know, and I can't pay for it. Or the park is closed, due to, maybe a fire that they had or something like that. So do your research first before you go out to that park. Check with the website. You might even call a ranger. I know when I go over to Borderland State Park for my full moon hikes, I call the ranger a couple of days ahead of time. Hey, what's going on? How are the trails? What do we look out for? You got anything going on? And he'll fill me in on what's going on before we even get there. Tell me where to park. Tell me where not to park. And that sort of thing. So that's extremely important to just check the area before you go. Scheduling your trip. Beware of hunters. That's another thing. Blue Hills this year had a hunt for 4 days in certain areas in the Blue Hills. We just avoided those areas when we hiked. We didn't hike in those areas during the hunts. There are other state parks. Miles Standish State Forest has hunting there too. You want to be careful where you hike out there at Miles Standish. You want to wear orange. You want to be brightly, nice and bright. Even your pets wear nice bright orange, so that if you do run into a hunter, they can see you before you get into trouble. So make sure you check the dates. The hunting season usually runs in late October, maybe through December, maybe mid-December. So you want to check during those times and make sure where you're hiking, people aren't hunting there, or that they're aware that you're hiking there. So also, there we go. Watch out for this is an actual sign. This is in the Blue Hills, and it's an actual sign, but it's at one of the gas stations where they distribute natural gas through the Blue Hills. There's a couple of gas lines that run through there, and this is for the workers when they go outside the area, just to be careful, because there are poisonous snakes up there. Not too many people have ever seen the poisonous snakes. I saw one. A few other people I know have seen poisonous snakes up there, but they're just far and few between. But that's something else. Not just poisonous snakes. We mentioned it before. Ticks, mosquitoes, poison ivy. Watch out for poison ivy. That this is a picture. 3 leaves. Beware of the 3 leaves. But if you notice, the leaves are different in these 2 pictures. And my father's a horticulturalist, and he told me there's 36 different varieties of poison ivy, and everybody's allergic to at least one. They may never run into that one in their lifetime, but I don't like to take the chance. I think I'm allergic to all of them now, so I try to stay away from poison ivy. And one of the things to do is just keep those socks up, keep your pants tucked into your socks, and then when you change your clothes, get them right in the wash. Wash them in high temperature water just to get that oil off because if you touch it, even if it's on your clothes and you touch it, you'll get that poison ivy. So make sure you be very careful and take your clothes off if you walk through poison ivy. Ticks, This is a tick identification chart that we've been, most of us have to identify the different types of ticks. If you find a tick on you and it's crawling, just flush it, burn it, crush it, get rid of it, whatever you can do. If it's stuck to you, what I normally do is remove it. Some people use tweezers. Some people say don't use tweezers. You can do the research on that. I'm not an expert on removal of ticks, but I usually just pluck it off with a pair of tweezers, put it in a plastic bag, and then I'll stop at the clinic down the street, show them the tick, show them the area that it was bitten, and they can make the determination whether I need an antibiotic or some concern or a follow-up, So just don't fool around with this. We do know people who have Lyme disease. I know people, they weren't even hikers and they have Lyme disease, and it's nothing to fool with. So my youngest son had Lyme disease, and so it's really nothing to fool around. Mosquitoes, same thing. You want to load up with that mosquito repellent, all natural. To me, it works very well. I smell real nice. And so you want to load up with that when you go out, spray it around your ears and the back of your neck and anywhere those mosquitoes might conjugate. And bees, that's a difficult one. Bees don't really, aren't really repelled by insect spray, on you. So you just got to be aware that they do live in the ground, not necessarily on the trail. So they usually live off the trail or very undisturbed trails. They'll be on those too. So that's a good reason to stay on the trail, is to stay away from those bees. So just be aware that there are bees out there. And it's nothing to be afraid of. We've really only run across them a couple of times in the woods. A couple of people have gotten stung, like Sue said, but it's nothing really to concern yourself with. Just be aware that they're out there. One of the things we talk about too is walking in smaller groups. There's less devastation to the vegetation when you're walking in a small group. People walk side by side, 3 across. They're trampling along the sides of the trails, making the trails wider. That's not what we want to do while we're out there. We want to keep those trails narrow and hike single file as best we can. So if you've got a large group, and you saw that large group that we had in that photo, we didn't break that group up, but they know on narrow trails, because we've been trained to stay single file. So 40 people in a single file, it's a long ways, but we stay single file. And when we get into a wide trail, that's where we can walk side by side. But smaller groups are best. And at high times too, we were talking earlier before the meeting about going out to the Blue Hills and the parking lots being full. Schedule a trip, with an off time. Maybe it's after work, maybe it's before work, maybe it's midday, when before people get out of work. You might if you have the opportunity, schedule it then. And the other thing is nightfall. You want to make sure that if the sun's going down at 6 o'clock, you're timing your hike that you're going to be out of the woods by 6 o'clock. So unless you like hiking in the dark, and I don't mind, we've hiked in the dark quite a few times, but one of the pieces in your pack has to be a headlamp if that's the case. So always carry that headlamp. Traveling on durable surfaces, you can see what kind of a durable surface this is. They're on a boardwalk, just so they're not disturbing any vegetation, out there. There's a lot of tender vegetation in the swampy areas. So traveling on the durable surface is extremely important. Rocks, great, dry grass, great things to travel on. And most places you're going to hike, they're trails. They're established trails. If you stay on those established trails and don't wander, you're good to go. That trail's established. It's already been trodden down. It's already a hard surface. That's what you want to be on, is those hard surfaces. And this is another boardwalk through the in the Blue Hills over by Ponkapog, and it's you got to watch it. Some of these boards get a little rickety. Sometimes they're floating. Sometimes you can't always get through. But this is that hard, durable surface that you want to stay walking on. So walk in single file. You can see this trail is narrow, but it is established trail. Everybody's in single file here. When you come across a puddle, and I know people don't like to do this, but this is why we have waterproof shoes. You walk through that puddle. If you start walking around that puddle and start making that trail wider, you're ruining vegetation around that. You can cause erosion and really displace that area. Things can really change if you go off trail. So yeah, stay on the trail. Let's see what disposing of waste properly. This is a huge, and let me tell you, we've been working with the DCR on this. With the influx of people in the woods because of COVID, people wanting to get out. There's a lot more trash in the woods, and it's so important to dispose of your waste properly. Go ahead to the next slide. So this is a group of us that we picked up, I want to say 14 trash bags of trash just at the trailheads in the Blue Hills along Route 28. 14 trash bags full of trash. And we cleaned them all up. Those trails looked beautiful. 3 weeks later, trashed out again. It's a never-ending job. And we try to educate as many people as we can. Keep those trailheads clean. I mean, we picked up everything from toilets to car bumpers to you name it. We picked it up off those trails and put them in trash bags. So again, if anything, if you come away with anything on this, please keep the trails clean. It's just so important. Go ahead, Sue. So act like animals, guys. You know, the animals don't trash the woods. We can all act like animals and leave the woods clean. Here's something that we see an awful lot, and it's very discerning to us. The poop bags. I don't know if they think there's a poop fairy that comes around and picks up the poop bags at the end of the day, but every time we go in, they're always still there. So I know nobody picks them up. So there's a couple of things you can do here. One is you dig a hole that's about 6 to 8 inches deep and bury yours or your dog poop. 6 to 8 inches is the optimum depth for bacteria to break down waste. If you go any deeper, the bacteria are on that level and it won't break down. So 6 to 8 inches is the optimum amount. You want to stay away from any water sources because you don't want waste to leach into the water sources. Stay off the trails just because you don't want to mess with the trails. And then when you're done with that little cat hole, just bury it and then cover it with leaves just to disguise it, because you don't want the animals to get in there and find it either. So that's extremely important. And we do have a huge campaign going now just to educate people on poop bags and stop leaving them at the trailheads or through the woods. So number 4 is leave what you find. When we go into the woods, the only thing we should be taking is pictures, and the only thing we should be leaving is footprints in there. That's it. These are all through the Blue Hills pretty soon, not yet. Lady slippers, and they are so beautiful. But if you pick this lady slipper, it's not going to grow again. We want it to multiply out there. So just leave what you find in the woods. The lady slippers are extremely important. Don't change nature. Some people like to paint on the little rocks, and leave little messages in the woods. It is kind of cute, but that's not what we're out there for. We're out there to see the rocks as they really are. We don't want to be painting on them. One thing that I know everybody's saying, well, what about the Quincy Quarries, Bill? Well, this is actually an acceptable area for painting, and it gives a lot of people a nice canvas to work from. And this is deemed acceptable as far as graffiti and stuff. And I kind of like it. I like looking at the artwork. It's very creative. Some nice messages. Hey, will you go to the prom with me? Was one of the messages up on those rocks. I thought that was kind of cute. But yeah, this is one of the exceptions to the rules. There's always an exception to the rules. So, and I just had to show you this because I know everybody wanted to know about the Quincy Quarries. Anyway, this is a this is in Wampatuck State Park, and I want to say, as I recall from when I hiked there as a kid, they told us that these were blast buffers. It's a structure full of sand. And in the Wampatuck State Park, they stored munitions during the Cold War. And just in case one of those bunkers blew up, this was supposed to suppress the blast from devastating the town of Hingham, I guess. So, but it's a structure that is part of our history, and it's still there. And you shouldn't write on it. You shouldn't play with it. You shouldn't climb on it. It should be just left there for history reasons. So that's one of the things. This is a slide, and most people ask me this is, hey, Bill, I eat an organic apple, or I might have an organic banana. Why can't I just throw those, things in the woods? They're going to break down. They're all natural, they'll create fertilizer and help things grow. Well, that is true, but most of these things aren't native to the woods. That could be a Fuji apple that's been imported into this country. We know that banana didn't grow here. And these things aren't, unless you go up to a tree, pick that apple off the tree, take a couple of bites of it and drop it on the ground, that's acceptable. But these, if an animal got to that banana, it would probably make him sick. And it's probably delicious, but it would probably make him sick because it's not part of their regular diet. Also, people throwing banana peels out or apple cores out the car window, land on the side of the road. Animals come out to get it and they get hit by the cars. That's not what we want. And the other thing is too, animals become dependent. People keep discarding garbage in the woods, and animals come and eat it. They're going to become dependent on that food and not their natural foods, and that's not good for the animals at all. Especially in the wintertime when they can't find that food anymore, and they can't forage for themselves. So, number 5 is minimizing campfire impacts. Not that we always go and build a campfire when we're hiking, but you might go in, you might, cook some soup or a hot dog or something like that on a campfire. One of the things that you really got to keep in mind is don't build a campfire if you can avoid it. Take that stove with you. Try not to build a campfire. And if you do, build it in an established ring, something that's already there. Once you singe that ground and sterilize that ground with a campfire, there's nothing growing there for years because it's sterile. So use a natural ring that's already there, and then and make sure when you burn your fire that you burn it all the way out. Don't keep adding to it and then douse it out with water. Make sure you burn it out. Make sure it's complete. All the ashes are burned down to the bottom. Stir them up, and make sure that everything's out. Douse that fire with water. Make sure there's no heat coming out of that thing whatsoever. And if you do have a fire in an unnatural place, and you need one, make sure you grind those ashes and scatter them too, so that they're not concentrated in one area. So. Anyway, number 6 is respecting wildlife. And this is a picture I took in the Blue Hills. There's a deer, everybody looking at that deer. It was just sitting there munching blueberries. It's okay to look, but don't go after don't try to walk up to them. Don't try to pet them. Don't try to scare them. Don't try to make them run. Take some pictures. That's about it. Don't approach the animals. They're not used to us. And you never know, if they're going to attack you. I'm always visioning that movie Elf, where he goes up to the raccoon to give him hugs, and it doesn't turn out very well. So don't approach the animals. Leave them where they are. Don't feed them. That's, again, it's not good to feed animals stuff that's not natural in the woods. They start getting used to you feeding them, and they're just not going to survive in the woods as well as they should if they're on their own. So yeah, never feed the animals. It's not good. Also, when you're in the woods, and this is a difficult thing, we don't always know everything about nature, but during sensitive times when fish are spawning, being in a stream, when we're doing canoeing and kayaking is not a good thing. When certain animals are nesting, you want to try to stay away from those nests and that sort of thing. Or when they're raising their young, stay away from the young. It's hard enough in the woods for them to protect their young without us, interrupting their whole family and that sort of thing. So try to, again, this is why we stay on the trails, because most animals won't build a nest on the trail or have a den on the trail. They stay away. So just keep that in mind. Try to avoid during sensitive times like that. So, and then controlling your pets. A lot of parks have leash laws just so that our dogs can't, won't run after the squirrels and the raccoons and the chipmunks and that sort of thing. A lot of people have dogs that are well trained. They'll stay at their side and they'll stop on command. Your pet. You know what to do to keep them safe, and to keep animals safe from them. So, and if you haven't got a trained animal, then just try to leave them at home or leave them on the leash. Be considerate of others. This is a great picture. I love this picture of the horses that came by us on the trail. And you step off to the side, let them pass. You never interfere with the horses. So and anybody. The other thing too is other people. Trail runners, step off to the side for trail runners. You'll hear somebody behind you saying behind you, and you just step off to the side. People coming up the slopes, they're doing all the work. If you're coming down, step aside so that they can come by you, because they've got a momentum going. They want to keep going, and they're doing all the work going up that hill. You're doing a little bit of work going down, but just step off to the side so they can get by you. And then the other thing too is loud noises. When we hike, we end up talking, chatting with each other, making noise. We probably miss a few of those deer out there because we're talking and stuff, but it's just part of us hiking. But you don't want to be carrying a loud radio. You don't want to be making real loud noises. Then you'll never see any in nature. None of those animals will be coming around. So you want to keep that to a minimum. Just try to, and it's also distracting to other people too that are out there for that forest bathing and that sort of thing. So try to keep the voices down and the loud noises down too. So Sue's going to take over now. I believe this is your spot, Sue.
It is.
Telling everybody how they can get started out there in the woods, where to go, and what websites to be on. And I just want to say thank you for everybody for listening to us, and I hope you enjoyed my end of the lecture anyway. So, and I know you will enjoy Sue's too, because she does a good job. Thank you.
Well, Bill did the meat of it, so he might be the one getting the questions. But yeah, we've now told you everything you can and can't do while you're hiking. So now how do we get started? First of all, pathology. Yes, the study of hiking trails. No, it's not that complex. We just thought that was really cute to put in there. Now, I guess you could divide the hikes into two categories. Do you want to go with the group or do you want to go by yourself? So I wanted to give you, hopefully we put enough slides to interest you, wanted to give you a feel for how you would be able to join other groups that are already doing hikes. First of all, the Appalachian Mountain Club offers a ton of local hikes. We're the Southeast Mass group, but there's the Boston chapter, there's the Rhode Island chapter, there's the Worcester chapter. You can go on to outdoors.org and you can just go through the database and scan by date what hikes are coming up, and you can register for them. It is different. There is definitely way less hikes right now because of COVID, but there's still hikes going on. And so I do encourage you to take a look at those. One thing I should also note is Appalachian Mountain Club doesn't require you to be a member. All these hikes locally are free and you do not have to be a member. You just have to register so that you can sign up on the website. Friends of Blue Hills, we're offering regular hikes, several and different varying lengths, different degrees of hardness. But unfortunately, I think with COVID, they're not doing as many, but I would definitely encourage you to go to the Friends of the Blue Hills site. I'm sure they will be picking up their hikes again. And they also offer suggested hikes, so it's good to go there. There are tons of meetup groups that do hikes, and those are free as well, and all different abilities, different challenge hikes. So you can look for a beginner, intermediate, or if you want a fitness hike, it's a good place to look. Also, Wildlands Trust is an organization that they put on educational programs, but they also do a lot of hikes, mostly to their locations. They own several properties in Southeast Mass, but they do a lot of hikes. They usually charge a very small fee for their hikes. So it's an easy way to get started. That's how I actually started. My cousin was going on an Appalachian Mountain Club hike and asked me to go, and I probably would have thought it was stupid to just follow people through the woods, but I went and loved it, and I still do it to this day. So it is something that I think you could try. This is giving you, I'm trying to wrap this up soon. I just wanted to give you a feel for what happens if you go on the outdoor site. It shows you that you can put in what chapter, whether you want to go hiking, biking, kayaking. You can put in a location and it will spit out everything that we have. As you see, the first hike listed registration's closed, but the others are open. So you just hit the register button and you can register for the hike. And if you have any questions, it'll give you the contact information to reach the hike leader. If you're not sure if this is the right hike for you and you want to get more details, you can contact them. Then there's many resources if you just want to hike on your own or with your friends. And I picked out what I thought was the key resources that I use and I thought was most common for our area. We've got the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, and they've got a great list of their parks, and I gave the link to that. Friends of the Blue Hills, they have, if you go to their website and you click on suggested hikes, they give a lot of examples. They'll tell you how long the hikes are so that you know in advance what you're getting into. Bay Circuit Trail. I don't know if people are familiar. There's a trail that runs, it's like a half loop outside of Route 128 that goes all the way from Duxbury to
Ipswich.
I forget where it ends. Up in Dan, it ends up. It's a big trail. It goes through many different conservation lands. So you can actually you can do the whole Bay Circuit Trail, or you can get suggested hikes from their website. So I would definitely suggest you take a look at that. Many of you have probably heard of the Trustees of Reservations. They own a ton of properties in Massachusetts now. And they have a directory that you can choose different places to hike. Massachusetts Audubon Society also has many wildlife sanctuaries where you can hike. And you can get information on the website. And lastly, I suggest again, Wildlands Trust. If you're not going to go on a lead hike, you can still get information from them as to where to hike. So I had pretty much ended the talk here. We weren't sure the timing. So what we were going to do is just scroll through a few pictures of some local hikes to bait you into wanting to get out and see the places. So first of all, we have the Blue Hills. And the Blue Hills has many different types of trails. So we have a couple pictures there. Here's a nice picture of Borderland State Park, Arnold Arboretum, Nantasket Beach. Believe it or not, you could do a 6-mile hike down and back on Nantasket Beach. You know, and here we're doing it in the evening when it's not crowded. Wampatuck State Park is one of my favorites. Burridge Pond Wildlife Area. It's a great hiking place, but an awesome place if you're doing bird watching. Dighton Rock State Park is gorgeous. Bill goes there a lot. Great River Preserve as well. That's a nice place to hike. And if you really want to mountain climb, one of the closest mountains that are really fun to climb because it's so open at the top is Mount Monadnock in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. So that's our presentation, and we really appreciate you listening, and I hope it's inspired you to want to do some hiking. And we can, if Margaret, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both so much. That was so comprehensive. We just have a few questions. Again, if anyone missed that in the beginning, you can add any questions to the chat or on the comment on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're joining from. And thank you to Nancy. You were talking about the circuit trail there, and she added Newburyport to Kingston.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I couldn't think of that. Thank you.
Okay. So one question was just any hiking tips for going with kids?
Bill, do you want to take that one?
All right, yeah. You know, the Blue Hills, if you do look at their maps, they do have little color codes on their maps. And a lot of the, like Houghton's Pond, the trails around Houghton's Pond are just great for kids. There's fields that they can run through. There's flat trails. There's water that they can walk up to. That's a great spot for kids. And kids too, the shoes are important on the clothing, you know, for your kids, because they're going through the same conditions that you are. So you want to dress them, you want to put a hat on them, that sort of thing. And then know your kids too, as far as how long they can go. Like my son Josh, he could outlast me twice the hikes that we went on when he was a kid. So you got to know that if they can go further than you too. So but yeah, kids. And let me tell you, I see families out there in the Blue Hills or at Borderland, and those kids are eating it right up. They just love it. There's no video games in their hands. There's no, they're just looking around. Their attention is on nature. So it's the best thing you can do for kids, I think so.
And,
Yeah.
before COVID, it was definitely a goal of ours to start doing more family hikes. But unfortunately, with the COVID situation, I don't believe there's any listed on our website at this stage. But hopefully, we'll be getting back to them soon.
We also just had a comment from a viewer, just that this was really informative, and just a thank you for that. Also, so we were just curious, maybe what was your favorite hike, or if not your favorite, just like maybe your most frequented hike?
That's a good question. Bill and I hike the Blue Hills a lot, and it's very varied, and it's so funny. It seems like almost every other week I'll be like, oh, this is one of my favorite trails, or this is my favorite trail. And then the next week I have another. So living here, I have to say Blue Hills by far is my favorite, just because of the diversity of the trails. I mean, you can literally hike the skyline if you want to. It's like climbing a mountain in Hampshire, except you're just going up and down, up and down, up and down. I mean, you can get quite a workout. I think the skyline's 9 miles long, and it's quite a workout and close to home. So yeah, and then there's a lot of flat trails. So by far, Blue Hills is my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sue. That the hike up to Buck Hill, and you can go up Buck Hill 3 times and not be on the same trail. I think that is by far one of the most spectacular views from the top of Buck Hill, almost 360 degrees of scenery up there. And then my other favorite, and it's only because we do it at night, is Borderland. I love to hike Borderland at night. It is so different when you're hiking at night. Your vision is so limited, and the things that you see under that moon are just so beautiful. It's just a whole new world. So I think that's probably one of my favorites too. Okay, and in that same vein, what is maybe your dream hike, even if it's not a local hike? So one place you haven't been yet or are really excited to get to? I think mine would be the Camino in Spain. That is a 550-mile hike from the Pyrenees in France all the way through Spain. You can go right to the ocean too. And I know a few people have done that and just described it. And if anybody wants to know about that hike, it's the movie about that hike is called The Way. And I think it may be on Netflix or Hulu or something. But if you really want to see the most spectacular hike you've ever imagined, watch that movie, The Way. It's a really extremely good movie. But I think that would be my ultimate hike.
Mine's a little more conservative. I would like to someday hike Mount Washington. I have not. It's a bit of a challenge for me, but I still think it's doable as long as I get up real early in the morning. So someday I would like to do Mount Washington. How's that?
Okay. Are the principles that you've shared applicable to hiking trips? We were talking about local hiking and local trips, but is all of this information still applicable if we were to travel outside of our area?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The 7 principles are worldwide, and they are adapted to different types of activities outdoors too. Backcountry, front country type of trips. They're also adapted. And if you go on the Leave No Trace website and take a look at their different rules for different activities, they have them for biking, they have them for paddling, just about everything. They have a whole set of rules for kid hikes and things like that. So if you go on to the Leave No Trace, and you can order, and we give them out. If you see me in the woods sometime, just ask me, I'll give you one. We have the cards that have all the principles on them and explain, the different things. So it's something good to have under your belt when you go out into the woods, just to keep the woods preserving for ourselves and our kids. So and it's applicable to almost everything.
And we did have just another comment. This presentation offered so much more than I had hoped for. Thank you for that. And the listing of organizations was so extensive. So thank you. Just another comment from a viewer.
Thank you. And please know that Bill and I would both be happy to answer any emails if you have any questions that come out of this about where to get started. I mean, we definitely would like to encourage that and are happy to help. And again, our emails were at the beginning, or you can go to our webpage, the Appalachian Mountain Club Southeastern Mass chapter, and our emails are listed on there as well.
Okay. And that's good, because that was one of the questions, is follow up with any future, if someone thought of something later, how they could get in touch with you. Please
don't be shy. Feel free to reach out to us.
And you did talk earlier about just mindfulness and connecting with nature. What do you love most about hiking or just being outdoors?
I like it all. Like, it's funny. I was with my dog the other day because I hike with him a lot, and I had my camera, which was not a good thing. I shouldn't have been trying to do both, but I realized when I walk the dog so much, I really miss walking with my camera because it was just a different way of seeing things and a different way of hiking. Right now I'm leading a group that is doing a scavenger hunt. We did it in the winter. We put together a list of 21 items that you'd see in the winter. And now we're on the spring one. And just to go out, last week we saw the hawk that we were looking for, and we caught him eating a mouse, and it was just so exciting. So I'd probably say that's my favorite, but then on another day when I'm in a big group hike, and I enjoy that too. Like, there's just so many different aspects, and they're just all different.
Yeah, and you get such a calming out of it too. You when you hike up, like I'm in construction, kind of stressful once in a while, and on day 4, at the end of the day, I go out for a hike, and I'm a different person on Friday. I am calm. I'm physically tired, but I feel good. It's just such a good feeling when you go out hiking. It's just it's something you can't even describe.
Do you have any books or reading or go-to websites, any kind of other resources that you would recommend, or literature for either new hikers or anyone interested in additional information to read up on being outdoors?
The AMC, if you go on their website, has a tremendous amount of literature on almost every aspect of outdoors that you might want to read. They do have a great book on leadership. You wouldn't think so, but their book on leadership is like second to none. I've read most of it. They've got other books on some of the hazards that people have run into over the years on Mount Washington, especially, which was a very interesting book. I can't remember the name of it, but they do. If you go on their website, they've got a tremendous amount of books that offer a lot of information on hiking.
And that question was good because it reminded me, I forgot, if people are interested in taking this further, we went through beginner stuff. Our group puts on a winter workshop, and some of the other chapters do advanced hiking. We even have other beginner hiking classes. So you'll find information on the website. There's definitely a lot more. We've recorded more of these Zoom type sessions where, like, the winter workshop goes on for, I think, almost 8 hours. You can watch it in segments, but it goes on all the different categories of things that you would need in winter. So it's definitely a resource that I would recommend that people take a look at. Things that you would never think of.
We don't have any more questions coming in. I will end with a last question before we close. If anyone had anything last minute, go ahead, throw it in the chat. What would you say is just like the one piece of advice, just the most important information for a new hiker to take with them?
My thing is just make sure you know you've researched the area that you're hiking in and you have the proper equipment. There's nothing worse than coming out of the woods with a lot of blisters and it turns you off on hiking. If you can go out there, go through it and come home comfortable, safe, and with a whole new experience, it's the best thing you can do. But just go in educated, that's all.
And my suggestion, if I could give a quick one, is if you're not comfortable going in the woods by yourself, join a group, because I never hiked much until I started joining the group. And now I find I hike so much, sometimes even just by myself. It just being out with the group made me so comfortable. So that's my biggest advice, because a lot of people are hesitant to take a step on their own. And there's plenty of group hikes to be able to participate with to get you comfortable.
Yeah, and the group, you learn from each other too. We learn where to hike. Other people have hiked other places and they'll tell you about those hikes, whether they were good or they were bad. So we learn a lot from when we hike in groups too. And we work off each other's strong points too, like hiking in the dark, But not everybody's comfortable hiking in the dark, but our little group is, because we worked off each other. We've educated each other about hiking in the dark, hiking in the rain. We've educated each other on gear and things like that. So you learn an awful lot from a group. You're right, Sue. A tremendous amount from the group.
We thank you both so much. Thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight, whether you were here with us live on Zoom or if you're watching after as well. Thanks for participating and for all of your questions. A huge thank you to Sue and Bill and for this very comprehensive and informative presentation. We all learned a lot. Again, once this is being recorded, so this will be available again to view. And if you have any questions, we'll link that webpage so you can get in contact with Sue and Bill if you think of anything later, if you're watching this at a later date. Did you want to see anything to close?
I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I mean, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I think the same with Bill. And it's really fun to share it. So thank you. And Margaret, especially to you, thank you for asking us to do this, because it was a wonderful experience for us to put together what we love so much about hiking. So thank you. I appreciate this so much.
Of course.
Yeah, and just get out there. Just get out on those trails. It's you real. If you haven't yet, you really enjoy it. And if you have hiked out on the trails, come hike with us. We'll have a blast.
So that concludes it. We thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone that made the program possible. And we hope to see you on the trails hiking with us, and have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.